Beside me here is a 1970 Boa Ski snowmobile. Made in Quebec. Hasn't been running in quite some time. It sat in someone's barn for 15-20 years. And it was last registered in 1974. So the goal today is to try and get this one running. But that's not all. I got two of them. And that one doesn't run either. Welcome back to Cody's Corner Garage. Before we dig in, I'll give you a little backstory here. So this one's a 1970. I bought it from a guy that his story was it was in his shed for, I forget, 10, 15 years. And he bought it sitting for a bunch of years also. And it hasn't been registered since the 70s. 1974 was the last registration. So I doubt this has been used in a very, very long time. So that's the story on that one. Don't know much about it. This one here I do know a lot about. It's a 69. Got it from my dad. So this one sat in his basement. I think the last time we drove it I was in college. And it's a funny story. This was a 300 Hearth. Now, when I was a kid, my dad had this. And they bought a new house and moved. And I think somewhere around that time is when the piston for the original engine was lost. Never found it. Don't know where it went. So it sat for a bunch of years. And then we decided, hey, let's jam this thing together. We'll just throw an Elan 250 in it. We'll get it running. And we took it out for a few drives. And then that engine got robbed for something else, and this went back to sitting. But it's in really good shape because it's been sitting. So this one's missing an engine completely. That one has an engine, which seems to have good compression, and it's not locked up and it rolls over and everything. So I think we'll try and get this one going first, since it's more or less all there. Then this, I've got some options. I've got engine number 1, engine number 2. There's an Elan out back with another engine on it. So I'm pretty confident I can get this one going too. But we'll start with this one. So I took the spark plug out, pull it over and see if it's got spark first. Alright, spark plug back in. Let's see if it's got compression. I'm going to call that good. Alright. Now let's feed it some very old mixed gas. Probably has no volatility left in it. That should be plenty. Just enough to start a fire. Here we go. Okay. Little trick that I use here when it's flooded. Don't put the spark plug all the way in, just rest it on top of the hole. Crank. Whoa. Okay. That spark plug's no good. I don't know if you guys can make that out on camera or not, but I just saw the spark jump from there over to here on the outside of the spark plug. Let me see if I can make it happen again. That's no good. Alright, so I grabbed a spark plug off one of the spare engines. We'll see how that goes. Could it be that my gas is no good? Alright, get a slightly more volatile mixture, I hope. Definitely squirts better. Let's see what that does. Well, it ran. Let me get over here with you and see if I can keep it running a little longer. I'd say that's going to be a runner. Doesn't seem to be too much wrong with that. Alright, so next thing. There's no fuel lines, and this tank is cracked. So, and very brittle apparently. So I think I'm going to skip that, and I'll probably just put some kind of jug bungee corded back here onto that and run a line up to here. But it's an old tillotson carb, and chances are I'm going to have to rebuild that fuel pump to get that torque right. But we'll see. I'll give it a try. Never hurts. Hook up a fuel line and tank and see if it pumps. If it doesn't, I've got kits here. Alright, got sidetracked. Found the key switch laying down here. Plugged it in to see if it works. See, on these old snowmobiles, you just do that and it's just always on. Really easy to steal. Anyway. So, that should be off. So, this should not start right now. But if I turn it on, key switch works. So what I got here is the tank off an old lawn tractor that was in my backyard. And I'm gravity feeding that down into the carb. I'm hoping that by gravity feeding it, we help the situation. It doesn't really need to be gravity fed, but it'll help fuel get to it. And hopefully once fuel gets there and it soaks in, it'll start drawing fuel. So we'll see what happens. It might not even pump. I don't know. That seems like it's doing nothing so far. What if we crack this and make it bend? Alright. So there's one more thing I can do here. There we go. Pinch it off. Pinch it off. Pinch it. Stop. Uh-oh. Mess. Okay. There. Now, if it's going to pump, it should pump. Okay, we'll try this again. This time I'm going to bottle feed it. See if it starts pumping on its own. Well, I don't think it's going to pump. So that'll be my next problem. I'll have to take the fuel pump off. So to take the carb off, there's just two 13 millimeter nuts. Oh, that'll make it slightly easier. Turns out that was just sitting there, attached to nothing. It's fine. I usually bend up a 90-degree 13 millimeter wrench for doing this. There. What do we got? Okay. So there's no gasket between the carb and the engine. Good. There. Oh, that doesn't want to come off. I might just have to cut that. Take the throttle cable off. There's a carb. So I'm going to take the fuel pump apart under here. Dig into that. And since we're here, wouldn't hurt to take a peek in and see how this is doing. Fine. Okay. So next step, we'll take this fuel pump apart. All these tillotson carbs are basically the same idea. They make different versions, but they're all kind of the same layout as far as the fuel pump goes. So this one for a filter has just a mesh screen, cork gasket. So your filter comes off first. Then the first plate comes off. And the way these are always laid out is gasket, diaphragm, plate, starting at the carb side. So gasket, diaphragm, plate. Now, I won't be rebuilding the whole carb either. I'm going down as far as the needle and seat, and that'll be it. I'm just going to assume that the rest of it is okay for now. Put the pump back together and try it. See what happens. So you can see there what I'm talking about. Oh. That might be part of the issue. It looks like someone was into this already and didn't put it back together right. We might have just figured out why this was sitting around for so long, not getting used. That might need a little tap to come off of there. Got it. Yeah, they had their order backwards. So it seems like it wasn't pumping fuel because they mixed up where the gasket and the diaphragm go on one of these plates. This one's right, gasket and then diaphragm, but that other one was diaphragm and then gasket. So that's probably part of the issue. Someone's been into the Welsh plugs before. I'm going to ignore that for now. I always try and get these off in one piece if I can, because sometimes they're actually still in good shape and you can save them. And the way these work is there's a pulse line that comes off of the crank and feeds into this. And that pulse off the crank is what actuates the diaphragms, and that's what pumps your fuel. How about the needle and seat? What's going on here? Stuck. That's another big part of the issue then. So, to get that out, it's just a little screw right here. Pull that out. Pull out the rod, spring, and then you'll have to get something in there. Pull the needle out. It was stuck. And then the seat takes a ground down 5/16. And when you put the seat back in, you want to be really careful that you're not putting too much force on it. So that looks clean in there. That seat doesn't look gummed up too bad, so I'm going to guess that the needle just got corroded and stuck. Yeah, you can see corrosion and grime on the sides of it. So I'll get one of my rebuild kits, have a look through it and see what they need, and we'll go from there. So there's a new kit. You can still buy these lots of places. I got this one at Canadian Tire. But I'll show you what the issue is with them. Is that they always come with these plastic diaphragms. And these, I hate them. No good. Now in my case, I don't even need those ones, I don't think. Oh, maybe I do. Yeah. I need that one. So that's why I try and get these off in one piece, because these older fabric ones, or whatever material they are, they're actually way better. So if you can soften these up and they're still pliable and they're not ripped and you get all the dirt off them, it's better to use these if you have them. These ones will do in a pinch if you have to, but they don't last very long. Okay. So I'm just going to clean this stuff up quick, and when I come back, I'll show you how to put it back together. Alright, so that's all cleaned up now. There was actually the passage that comes back out of where the needle and seat is was completely blocked off, so I had to blast some air through it, but it's good now. The needle and seat itself looks like it's in pretty good shape, so as long as it doesn't stick, which it doesn't seem like it is. No, there it is. Okay, it is sticking. See if I can get them working free. There, that's all it needed. So once that gets some fuel through it, I'd say that's going to work just fine. So, first we'll put this back in. You got to be really careful not to cross thread these. I usually just start them in by hand and then finish them off with the ratchet. And you just want to snug them. if you force them too hard, it's just brass. So if you force it too hard, you'll wreck it. Okay. Next, we'll drop the needle back in. I'm not going to mess with the settings on this at all, but you can bend these tabs a little bit if you want your needle to sit different. I'm going to assume this one was probably okay, and I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm not even going to mess with it. So, put your spring in. There's a little dimple in that, so you line that up with the spring. Push that back together, like that. Then you get your little tiny screw, you stick that back in. And just as a test, what you can do is once you've got that back in tight, flip it over and just see if the needle drops on its own. And this one is. So I'm going to call that good. Okay. Next up, you're going to find your first gasket. It's going to be this one. Now, if you're wondering which gasket is which, it should be pretty self-explanatory. Just keep track of how it came apart. And if it was together right in the first place, then it'll go back together the same kind of way. But basically, like, see, this one has a big open ring. The gasket for this is going to have the same kind of shape. See that? Well, if I can get it the right way. There's a circle there, there's a triangle there. So you can find the right gaskets just by looking at it and seeing how it is. Whatever it's shaped like, that's the right gasket. The other thing is, all these little raised bumps that are on this, you want to try and get those as clean as possible because that's what's actually sealing against the gasket. These ones all look pretty good. Okay. So, remember, gasket, and you can see how there's little pins that line up with certain holes. There's little notches on spots. Like, you can get this to line up in different spots, but there's only one right way to put it. So in our case, it's right there. That's the correct way. Then we'll get our new diaphragm fuel pump thing. Just like that. Now, getting this lined up, you just line it up with your gasket. And you can see how the gasket has a little tab and this has a notch. Those should line up. So that's in. Now the plate. Well, how was this before? Like that? No. Like this. There we go. So that's how it goes right there. And you can kind of make it all make sense when you're looking down the holes. Like there's a passage there for fuel. There's a screw hole. There's a screw hole. That's a passage for fuel. You can kind of look around the holes and make sure that it's in the right way. Now this is going to go right there. Gasket. So that was gasket, diaphragm, plate, gasket, diaphragm, and I'm reusing the old one. And then plate. And if this was a later model carb, it would have another gasket, diaphragm, plate. And you can see what I mean about the flat spots lining up on the plates. These bumps line up. there's lots of indications about how it goes together properly. Now, I still don't know if this carb is going to work, but someone was monkeying around with it before me because stuff wasn't in the right order. It had a fuel passage that was blocked off. Someone had the Welsh plugs out at some point, and both of the adjustments were way off. Someone had the low speed wound all the way out and the high speed all the way in. So I'm going to say that the reason that this was parked and they quit using it was probably, and this is pretty common with tillotson carbs, is someone got into this fuel pump, put it back together wrong, didn't understand it, and it wouldn't work, and they just gave up on it. And of course, nowadays, people would just throw a different engine on it or do something, but the last time this was registered was in '74, remember? So that was only 4 years after it was new. So they probably didn't want to junk another snowmobile to put another engine on this at the time. So it's all starting to add up. All right. Now the screen, we'll just clean that out. Little compressed air. Stick that back in. Cork gasket back in. And before I put this back on, I'm going to cut this little piece of fuel line off. But that's it. Pretty simple. So, got it all back together. The pulse line was leaking, so I had to put a new pulse line on it, but it's all back together now. Now to see if it'll start and sit here and run. See if it pumps fuel on its own. Here we go. Keeps flooding itself out. I'm not exactly sure why. That would be our issue. So, that means the carb's coming back off again. So sit tight. I'll be right back. Well, that was my fault the whole time. Forgot to put this diaphragm back in. So I dug the new one out of the rebuild kit, threw that in. Here we go. Take two. All right, will it start and run? Take 700. Here we go. Maybe this carb is just no good. All right, come on, please start. I would dare say that is now a runner. Woo! Okay. Now, after this smoke clears out and I take a break to wash all the gas off my hands so I can stop seeing stars, I guess we'll stick a belt on this thing and see if we can go for a drive. Oh yeah, and fuel tank. Possibly, maybe attach that to the back somewhere. Anyway, we'll figure that out. Alright, so I put a little bit of ATF in the chain case. It is leaking, but at least it's got something in it for now. So, I'm going to pop this off. We'll throw a belt on it. I got an old belt here. And then I'll find some bungee cords and strap the seat down and put my gas tank on the back of it. And we'll head out to the yard, see how it does. With any luck, nothing else is wrong with it. I also have no idea if this is anywhere close to the right belt for it, but it's what I got, so it's what I'm going to use for now. Okay. Snag in there. Like that. Up into here. I can already tell it's not the right belt, but it'll probably work to go a couple laps around the yard. At least tell us if it's going to work or not. Okay, if it'll start back up, we'll be on our maiden voyage. First drive. Uh-oh. It's going to be a long drive around the yard if it keeps running like that. Wonder if that's the key switch acting up. Let's just unplug that and see what happens. It's just like it's losing fire. Uh-oh. Well, unfortunately, I think that's the end of the journey for that one for now. Because that is all pieces of the drive axle. It just grenaded just as I came up the driveway. That's a shame. Oh well. I got one left, and I'm going to call that successful because it sat that long and drove out of the garage on its own power and did a lap around the yard, so I'm calling that a win. I'll have to find some drive axles sprockets for it, but I wonder which one. Let me see which one broke. That one right there. Look at that. The one on the other side looks like it's about to. Ugh, that sucks. Oh well. Just on my way to work right now. It's the next day. I'm thinking I really want to get that snowmobile going now. So tonight I'll have that second one running, I hope. This is really good snow to get out and take it for a drive. So here's the plan for this one. I've got this engine. It's a 250 single off Elan, which is what this was geared up to use. That engine needs a pull cord assembly. So, pull cord assembly on that engine mounted onto this, throw a belt on it, find some sort of fuel system container holder, and I feel like I'm forgetting something. Muffler. Yep. Okay. That'll be about it. So I really wanted to use an Elan fuel tank here. That's what this was already cut out to fit. And the Elan tank slides right in, and I do have one. But it's frozen into that snowmobile that I mentioned before that's out back for parts. So Temporarily, I'll come up with something else. I think that looks like a fuel jug. There. Fuel jug. Handled. So one of my friends commented on the Mercedes drive shaft video. He said, why'd you spend so much time showing every bolt going back into that drive shaft? You know, you should have just showed a couple and maybe sped it up or something. That seemed like a big waste of time. So I'm going to try something new here. You're going to see the fastest clutch swap ever. Are you ready? Here we go. Alright, about to fire this up for the first time. I've been messing around with wiring, trying to get the key switch to work on and off. And I can't get it to work, so that's just going to stay always on like the other one did. And yeah, we'll see if she fires up. Oh, stuck the exhaust on too. I spent about 3 hours messing around, tapping and finding the right hardware and then making my own nut work that wasn't the right thread, and anyway, that's just a mess, but it's on there. So let's try and fire it up and see what happens. Alright, see what happens. Well, that's a runner. So now I'll stick a tank in it. I did manage to find someone in the area that had a couple good tanks, so I'm going to stick one of them in. And we'll finish putting the exhaust together, belt. I guess that's all it really needs, and stick the hood on it and take it for a drive. So I got my new tank, but see what the issue is there's a little bit of ice in there. Well, there's a lot of ice in there. So I'm going to let that thaw out in front of a heater because, you know, gas tank in front of a heater seems perfectly safe. And then once that's all melted out, we'll stick it in there. But just to show you. That fits in there about like that. Right there. So, Elan tank and a Boa Ski is not too bad of a fit. It's pretty close. Until it gets stuck. There we go. So I've got my pickup here. And I've got this specially designed clunk for the end of it. Not actually, it's just an air fitting that I put a hose clamp on the end of the fuel line. It'll work though. You just need something to weigh it down so it sinks to the bottom of the tank. That's good enough. Now what you want to do is make sure that that line is all the way down in the tank. If it isn't, you can grab it with some pliers and fish it around a little bit. I'm going to try this again. Oh, don't cross thread it. Easy. There we go. Can I get one more out of it? Maybe. Okay, channel locks. There. That looks like it'll work just fine. I can run my lines under that and down this way. That'll be perfect. I just wanted to show you guys a quick example of why you don't pull on the cap when you're trying to take these tanks out. That's what happened to my last one. See, you pull on the cap and it just busts that whole thing right off. So yeah, don't do that. Alright, so next I'll put the exhaust on, and that'll tell me where I can put my wiring and my... What is in here now? Oh, that's good. Yeah, whatever. But this will tell me where I can put my wiring and my fuel lines, because I don't want them hitting the exhaust. Oh, okay. Probably should have put that together before I tighten that up. One step forward and 2 steps back. Story of my life. I'm gonna run right between here, up under this, and right here. Wow. Come on. There we go. And see, when they're that hard to put on, you don't need hose clamps on them, really. Now, I'm going to have to turn this anyway, just to get the right angle on it. So rather than just turn it, I'm going to take it off and put a spin-on style filter on, just because I like them a little better. And that also allows the line to come straight up into it, which is a little bit better. There. There's the... Oh. Okay then. So that didn't have a filter in it. That's good. I guess it is a good thing that I'm doing this. You know, considering that I didn't put the right filter on the pickup in the tank. So at least now we'll have this. There. Now, that cut right about there. Good. And in. Now, this tillotson is a little bit different than the last one. This one has a return on it. So, it comes out of the carb on this side. And then we'll just run that right alongside our other line through here. Back to the tank. There. Now go under here and up. We'll tie those both over here somehow. I'll dump a little bit of mixed gas in her here. Okay. Let's see if I can prime this just by blowing on the return line. Little trick for getting fuel up to the carb. So if you just blow back on the return line, see that? Just put fuel through the carb. Now, see if it'll start. Here we go. Let's give it a drink. A little easier. Yes! It's running! It's running. That's it. All right. Now, throw a belt on it. Seat, maybe. Zip tie this wiring up out of the way. Put the hood back on, and I think we're ready to take it out of the garage. Stick that back on. Hood going back on. There. There's a big washer for each side and a nut to hold that down. We'll just go finger tight on that. That'll be good enough. Well, where's the other nut? It would appear that I've lost some hardware. So I'm just gonna rob the nut off the bottom exhaust mount because it's definitely not going to be necessary. And I'll stick that on here. Sure. There, fixed. Good enough. Now, throw the seat on, which is going to be this one for now. Maybe I'll figure out a way to strap that down. Yeah, that's going to be it right there. Yep. Oh, that'll work perfect. There. Now if I had one more of those, unless this will work, maybe. I think it will. Yep. Oh, that ain't going anywhere. Look at that. Oh, that looks almost like brand new. All right, here's the big moment. If this works, it'll be the first time this has been in snow since my first year of college. So that'd be going on 11 years ago now. All right, here we go. Here we go again. Well, that's working about as perfect as it could be. Sitting here idling. I'm going to see if I can get my wife on the camera, and I'm going to go out in the field. That'll do it for this episode of Cody's Corner Garage. Thanks for watching.